Right, obviously, a lot of past episodes of this show have been understandably quite derogatory towards Mad Lions because, I mean, has anyone seen them for the last split half? They were pretty bad. Like, they weren't even just bad at the times. They actually looked like I think at the beginning of the summer split, they looked completely useless. They couldn't even get a lead anywhere on the map. Like, all the lanes had fallen apart. In fact, the irony of ironies was, it was pretty much only Super could even turn in sort of a vaguely reasonable LEC performance. Whereas, as much as people wanted to make it all about G2 when Mad Lions beat them, bro, they almost really did just beat Fnatic. Like, I think we have to actually somehow have like a moratorium on this. Obviously, something did change. This is definitely not the team I was watching play in the playoffs, the one that lost to like Carmine Corpus. That wasn't that team at all, but this just shows one concept that I've always believed in Counter-Strike. I know Counter-Strike isn't a game with cycling global metas, so there's a slight difference, but it goes like this. I actually do think people get too hyped up on the idea of like momentum, but between events. For me, momentum's more like how you're playing this week with your psychology for next week, with if things go the right way, it can continue and stuff, but it doesn't just go forever. Like eventually you have like a reset between splits. It might be after something happens, like there's a meta switch or a player realizes like, oh, I can't keep playing this way, whatever it might be. Once you have the switch again, eventually for me, this is why I think people get overhyped when a team has one good year, is if the constituent parts are only capable of doing it in that 1 year, in that one meta, in that one moment, then that's not really the team you have. That was just what you had last year. So the question I have to ask at the beginning is this, Yamato. Does this actually imply people, when Mad Lions had bad results, were people too cynical about the roster? Was there still like strength within the roster we couldn't see that's now manifest again?
I think, like, for sure, I 100% agree with the point that it's like the performance is so circumstantial, right? It's like there's so many circumstances, the small variables that can make like a big difference. In terms of like Mad Lions, I did feel like in summer that they lost the main edge that they had, which was in terms of their early games, they were very, very good. They just kind of, in the mid to late game macro, they didn't understand the benefit of pushing deeper waves. It's like when they pushed a deep wave with the solo laners, they wanted to hit the tier 2 as a consequence rather than connecting and contesting jungle and kind of continuing in the same line of thinking as they do in the early game in terms of how they contest camps. But then in summer, there was a regression because it seemed like somewhere along the line, they were like, oh, this is not enough. We need to kind of figure ourselves out. And then they lost their strengths in the process of doing so, and they tried to kind of band-aid by picking compositions that scale better, but this is never what they were. In terms of them being at their best, they're supposed to be the southpaw of the league. In my mind, this roster reminds me so much of what Vitality, like my own Vitality was in 2018, where we wanted to be unique in a way where we model ourselves around our own strengths, but also model ourselves to be very awkward for the other top teams in the region to face up against. Because when we faced up against Fnatic faced against the other teams, they were just mini copies of themselves, while we wanted to be very awkward and play a very heavy side laning game against their like bot-centric game with Reckless, and of course sometimes during that period also Bwipo. So Mad Lions, it's kind of crazy that they found themselves. I think that the main thing for me that stood out that made them good in winter was just how Alvaro and Elioya played together. I generally feel like these two players heavily underperformed in summer and made Mad Lions look super, super bad. And then Mirwin just didn't use his massive edge in terms of playing things that he has the most matchup knowledge on, because in winter, I remember like preparing against him was very awkward. It's like, oh, they play Rumble against Fiddlesticks against Rumble. They play LeBlanc top. They play these champions. Screaming against him like kind of made your wheels turn, and it kind of forced you to think so differently that your practice against other teams as you prepare against them was a lot worse. But in summer, they were just one of the group. And it seems like their boot camp over in Madrid, they kind of restructured and found themselves again. And I think with the downfall of G2 and Fnatic in terms of where their performance level is at, there is an opportunity there. And I like that Mad Lions have this level of confidence to actually swing from the underdog position, because this is something, in my opinion, that is lacking from the other teams. Like BDS, everyone saw that series against G2 and everyone kind of felt like G2 is going to reverse sweep them, right? They don't have what it takes to win, because against these teams, you need to win a couple of times and you need to believe that you can win. And I think this is the energy that I get from Mad Lions, like just Alvaro, Elioya performing again and finding, things that work for Mirwin in terms of, bringing forward his strengths.
It's funny because obviously a lot of the, I wouldn't even say abuse, a lot of the like criticism or memery that Super got, he brought on himself with all those interview comments, obviously, when he was riding a little bit too high. But I've got to give him credit, actually. Dude, he actually is pretty good. Like, I thought in this series, what was he supposed to do? He did enough to win 3 games out of 5. This guy's, it's like, put it this way, even though Noah had the odd game here that was good, I think Super actually is a better player than Noah, man. I don't even think that's hating on Noah to say so. Hasn't he sort of shown it now? Because he's shown it in the good and the bad Mad Lions for my money.
No, I was joking with Dom, well, because we were co-streaming that with Gideon as well. I was like, on the day, Super is playing better than Def did, because Def kind of ran it down against T1. Like, he had a very, very poor series, and like Super was performing. There was like he could have, if he in that moment in game 5 just managed to get the flash off because he saw the Rakan coming towards him. If he flashed over that Raptor wall, all of a sudden, you know, that would have reframed, like the Mad Lions winning that series. I think it would have been, his performance would have been so much more appreciated by the community, I believe, because it was just such a close thing. Because if he gets that flash, all of a sudden the fight is Super losing, and then Mad Lions probably win that game. But I agree fully. Like, Super was very, very impressive and consistent. And it's like the other guy, Frisky. I don't know why, but when he plays against Humanoid, it's just Humanoid.
It's just his best player to play against, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on through Humanoid's mind. It could be like one of those moments, if I try to rationalize with no information at all, it's like he thinks so little of him that it's like he can't conceive the idea and like lets down his guard. And as it happens, it just tears. Like when he makes a mistake, it just fucking really like hurts him, you know, hurts him, his soul. Because I remember many moments where Huno was like, this guy's so bad, this game is won.
Right.
He said those exact words like 3 minutes into the game, and most of the time was true. But with Frisky, there's something of a block there, for I feel like.
The only thing is, though, like, what's funny is, like I say, I could have started this episode, we could have just memed on Mad Lions and be rude, etc. But what's sad is, I've purposely tried to frame the good things at the beginning of it, because, like, they're going to be at Worlds now, bro. We have to watch this, like, we have to just get all in on that idea. It's happened now, just what's going to happen. So we're going to see them at Worlds. But here's the problem. That is probably the most embarrassing way you could lose a series. Like, bro, like, I've seen a lot of stupid shit in my time in League. I mean, pretty sweet. You know what? I'll even be fair. When they made that, like, fucking $7 million Bjergsen Super team, I once saw them do a playoff game, bro, where they, like, traded, you know, their entire base for a dragon or something stupid like that. You know, like, classic, like, brain fart stuff that even veterans like Bjergsen have done before. But, man, this was embarrassing, the way they just let the other teams walk down the middle and just win the whole game. Like, that's only... Give me some thoughts on this. How does that happen, Yamato? Give me some... How would you even play defense for that? How does that conceptually even happen?
Honestly, it was so strange, because I think the example is so good, because it was straight up like 100 Thieves macro. There was such a tunnel vision on the Drake that is spawning, just forgetting all elements of the game. It just seemed like they tried to make the situation a lot better than it is, and in the process forgot how bad their position actually is. Because it's like the enemy has that threat to open down mid, and they have the position on the dragon, so you have to kind of pick your poison in that moment and kind of sacrifice HP and resources to get information, to take that space. But in that moment, it seemed like, oh, we found an opening. We can enter the river through here. And then they just lost the whole game, lost the Nexus. I think what you meant is like, this is such 100 Thieves with the Bjergsen double lift thing. It was such a 100 Thieves macro, you know, just entering that Drake through bot is exactly those games. I think you hit the nail on the head, man.
No, it's wild,
but the psychology of it, I have no clue, because I've been on the other side, you know. It's like Vitality, I don't know how many Nexuses we stole with TPs or whatever the fuck. So it's like, I know the other side. It was just all about like planning and just leveraging strength, because my Lions position was pretty awkward there, but they played it as bad as they could.
What do you think then? Because like I say, we have to actually acknowledge now, this team's going to be at Worlds, right? The one upside, if I try to spin a positive, is this. Look, the Merwin factor does mean, like, in a way, this is what everyone tried to say when you had your boy Adam going to Worlds. It's like, hey, at least they got like a weird approach, like it's a unique approach to the meta. Maybe you catch them off guard in a BO1. Like, there's probably going to be teams where if they haven't paid attention to LEC, but they wouldn't really have a reason to right now, that some of them could get tricked by like a triple flex in a top or something. That seems plausible. plausible as long as you catch the right team that hasn't scrimmed you or something. Problem I have is, though, that's really like all I can hope for. Like, it's hard to see this team winning like macro games against the best Asian teams, for example, right?
No, for sure. I think just as a point of comparison, I do think that like when I compare to the other teams, like BDS is like the main main team you would compare it to. It's like sending BDS and Mad Lions. I'm kind of in the state of mind where I'm more excited about a Mad Lions because I think that they have the right confidence to win from an underdog position. I do feel like they kind of play on mistakes of opponents and are willing to elevate risk in the game. I think that's something so crucial because I think that BDS's play is always so baseline and consistent. Well, I think there's many moments where Mad Lions kind of spike and find like windows where they perform insanely high. And I think that the main pain point, right, is that in that elevation of risk, they also lack that consistency of BDS where the amount of games they have lost from winning position, even against BDS, there was that 12k gold lead with Soul, with Nash spawning, where Alvaro just dives into the enemy team and then Jinx starts getting kills, and then all of a sudden they like lose an unlosable game 3 times. It's like it happened against KC2. It happened now with the open mid. At least Mad Lions puts me in a position where maybe they can put themselves in those positions, while on the flip side, I think with the BDS, if they are playing against a team that is better than them, that'll always be obvious. I think prepping against Mad Lions, as you said yourself, is just very, very awkward. And I think that's what you need to be if you come into a tournament as the underdog. It's like Mad Lions, like they could be a team that loses against teams that are worse than them, but I'm happy to risk that because in the end, it's like going to Worlds to beat like the Vietnamese seed or like a lower North American seed, and that's your ambition. It's not super exciting. While Mad Lions maybe can do some damage and confuse on the best day if their prep goes good, because it's in Europe, so maybe they go back to Madrid and enjoy the sun, and maybe they're going to be primed to do even better.
I'll even say as well, it's not just like the fluke factor of like, what if they get a weird top lane matchup? I'd also say as well, the part that people probably miss on Mad Lions is the real heart of that team obviously is just El Yoya. Like, it's fucking his team. He got to pick this whole squad. As far as I can even tell, dude, I can even tell when he plays in the game. Like, I don't have the comms, but like in English, you'd say like he calls his own number. It's like he just calls players for himself, bro. He clearly like does what he's comfortable doing, and he has like what I've always found interesting about El Yoya is I feel like people only ever remember that first year when it was him at Humanoid and they won those championships coming back in the mid game. It's like he hasn't played like that his whole career, guys. Like for me, I actually think he's more in the sort of inspired vein of like he wants to be like on some level like a control jungler, bro. He wants to have like his vision for the game. Like he'll invade sometimes, but you can tell he does it on a planning, and he like clearly wants to like come with people and have them play around. Like that actually could also be pretty good for winning a BO1, because what that tells me is if you get the early lead, at least he can do something with it. You've got someone who's got experience, who's going to call the game. Like I don't just want people doing purely random like Gigabyte Marine shit from 5 years ago where you could just like you could get a few kills early, but then even then it was like fucking holding on to win that BO1 was a miracle in itself. So it's not implausible if they get the right team. But it's with the obvious type of team I'd like to see Mad Lions against is any like good LPL LCK team, but not a great one, Yamato. So like give me like a D plus or something, you know, some team who thinks we're just playing normal league, who played this a million years. Give me the fuck it. So then they're doing like the aiming. Oh, which ADCs it is? It could be any of these 3, bro. 3? What? Then or I need it to be like Weibo Gaming or some bullshit like that, you know. Give me one of these like not quite truly elite Asian teams. Let's just have them not do too much work, you know. Maybe they tune in. Maybe they stupidly just watch like the first file and went like, oh, this Mad Lions team's all right, I guess, but they're nothing special. And then we just come in with all the quadruple, triple, gigaflex, 5D chess all over the draft. That's what we need.
100%. That's the angle. I dream of that format. I hope that works. It's like it brings me back still to the 2018. It's like we played against RNG and they literally like just spat on us in the draft. We got like Draven, we got the tank v tank matchup, we got the Trash, we got Rise, we got like all our OTPs in the draft, and they didn't give a fuck about us. They're like, there's just another name that are gonna shit on, and we took a win. You know, we took a win against the tournament favorite at the time. Shit like that happens when you don't have like a big name like G2 and Fnatic, and they don't recognize your org. They're not gonna treat you the same. I have always kind of felt that way going to the World Championship for sure.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.